We now welcome in one of the greatest of all time in any sport, Hall of Famer, the NBA's all-time leading scorer, the GOAT of GOATs, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. I'm always so happy when you are on the show. Thank you.
Nice to talk to you.
You have a new documentary coming out on the History Channel. It comes out Saturday night. It's called Fight the Power, the movements that changed America. What motivated you to executive produce this project?
Well, I kind of felt that so many of our movements in America really are based on the same thing. People who feel that they are not treated very well and have no chance of being able to live their lives as they see fit, for any number of reasons. You know, women were denied the vote, and they were a majority. You've had riots. You have the Stonewall riots. You have the LA riots protesting the treatment of Rodney King. There's so many different elements. The shirtwaist factory that made it very obvious that we had to do a much better job for protecting people in the workplace. All of these things came from the same desire for equal and fair treatment. So that to me is what it's about. And it's amazing. They just announced that Juneteenth is now a federal holiday. That's when we'll be showing it for the first time on Saturday night.
Sir, first, thank you for everything you've done on and off the court, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. What did you think about, in the bubble, what the players did, NBA players did from a social justice standpoint? And if one of them were to ask you what they should do going forward, what would you tell them?
Well, I thought the way that they were able to share their social consciousness without offending people, just to show them what their concerns were and why. And they did it in a way that people could listen to it. And it wasn't about anger. It was about getting people to understand what the issues are. It's very, very important that this is done. We all saw what happened with Colin Kaepernick. He had an issue about police violence against Black Americans, and the people who didn't want that subject discussed tried to change the subject and say that he was doing it against America or against our armed forces or against something. And all he was doing was using his platform to call attention to a very important issue. The NBA has a long history of not doing that. They have a long history of trying to figure out how to give the guys a chance to express themselves without making fools of themselves. And that's what they did. I was very happy to see how they handled it. People understood. In my neighborhood, which is not a Black and brown neighborhood, the Black Lives Matter protest last summer, it was shocking. You know, all the people that were not Black people out there that were appalled by what happened to Mr. Floyd. It's nice to see that the communication is starting to take place.
Kareem, how you doing? Matt Barnes again, and I want to echo what Mark said. Thank you for all your work on and off the court. This social fight isn't new to you. You've been in this for a very long time, so you don't always get the recognition you deserve when it comes to this or basketball, I feel, but we definitely wanted to tell you today that we definitely appreciate you. Transitioning from social justice to basketball, how has the center position changed from your time when they had to feed you the ball and you got to do what you wanted to now there aren't very many centers, maybe two, that they can actually throw the ball down to and play through today?
Well, I think it has to do with the way that the three-point shot has stretched the court. But here in LA, we have a center, Anthony Davis. He's really capable of doing it all. He can defend the hoop and rebound, block shots and rebound in the paint. Yet at the other end, he can go out there, set screens on the perimeter and step back, hit the three-pointer, or play with his back to the basket in the paint when they have a height advantage. So I think the versatility of your team and the various players on your team really is what this is all about now. It's what the game is all about. Centers now can't just be limited to the paint. Well, that's a challenge, but there's some guys that have responded and are doing an incredible job. Joel Embiid, awesome, and he can go and play with his back to the basket, but he come out, play on the perimeter, and defend on the perimeter.
And of course, we saw Nikola Jokic win the MVP this year, so it's certainly an evolution.
Jokic was the first center to win it since Shaq, I think.
Yeah. So absolutely. Now, the first since, if we're going to get into that, you were part of the only Bucks team to ever win an NBA title, and that was 50 years ago this year, which underscores just how difficult it is to do in the NBA.
Milwaukee. That's too long ago, man.
What do you think of how the Bucks series against the Nets has progressed, and what it would mean if they could get through here and even win a title? What it would mean to the city of Milwaukee?
I think the folks in Milwaukee will lose their minds, because it just they've been snake bit a number of times by injuries, and had great teams. I remember when Bob Lanier went there and played out his career and had a great run there, but they just couldn't make it into the finals. So they're going to have to get it done, one way or the other. And they have the horses, but there is a reason why we play the games.
Yes. I know during the break we were talking that, as you put it, Kevin Durant is not here to play. So that is something they will have to overcome. I do want to get into how you did leave Milwaukee, because it was actually on this date. We have the anniversary right now. 46 years ago on this date is when you were traded from Milwaukee to the Lakers. And we've talked about this before. You kept that trade request private. You played a full season without incident before the trade was actually made. You went and did your job. But looking back, why did you feel, since we are on the anniversary of it today, was the best move for your career? And really, you were at the birth of player empowerment, saying, I would like to be moved.
The reason that I tried to keep it on the down low as much as I could is because, I really appreciated the way the people in Milwaukee had treated me. They paid me well and they supported me. And, I wanted to give them an opportunity to get the best deal that they could get for me. And the more I kept my mouth shut, the easier that could have happened. Mm-hmm. So I decided I'd keep my mouth shut and let them try to make the best deal that they could, because I wasn't going to play another year there.
Right.
And, it all worked out for me,
Yes, clearly. We can see that right now with the footage. Absolutely. And I know that the city of Milwaukee has been looking for someone like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar since. They're very happy with their two-time MVP, but they would be even happier if they could get a Kareem-like title there back in Milwaukee. So we will follow that as well.
Giannis and those guys are, I've been there to see them play. Mm-hmm. They're an incredible team, but I don't know what it is. Sometimes it's just you can't get the right team to go as far as you want it to go, but it's still a great team, and it wins the support of all the fans.
Do you think
just going to have to figure out a better approach?
Do you think that this Bucks team, the way it is now, do you think that this team is capable of winning a title?
No, I don't. KD would kill those guys, man. No, I'm serious. Because he score, and then he finds the open guy. He could do that by himself. They got to do a better job. The whole team has to play differently so that KD, one guy, can't just dominate like that.
Well, they'll have one more shot at it, and we'll see what they can do in Game 6. Kareem, it is just such a privilege to get to be able to talk to you. I always say I have the most fun job, but it's getting to actually meet and talk to over the years, you, frankly, that has made me feel like I have just the honor is out of control. So,
and let you guys know, we've the Social Justice Award. We've had a meeting on that, and we've got it all figured out. And I'm looking forward to making the announcement. I'm very honored that they would choose me to represent that. I grew up watching Jackie Robinson and Bill Russell as my heroes, and Muhammad Ali. I stand on their shoulders. So to to be singled out like this is really special for me. I'm very thankful.
Well, I know that the NBA is better for this award existing, and frankly, there is no one else who I think it could have been named after. We had Harrison Barnes on the show earlier this week talking about his project. We've talked about some of the other projects that were finalists as well, and we will look forward to your announcement. It is so, so important. Thank you, Kareem.
Harrison has been doing an awesome job.
He really has, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so fascinating to see. Kareem, thank you so much. I really cannot tell you how much I appreciate your time, and how tongue-tied I always get around you is a pretty good indication of how I feel.
Let me turn my phone off because we can't be interrupted like that.
Well, we'll let you take your call. We appreciate it, and we will look forward to you joining us again soon. Thank you so much, Kareem.
You're welcome. Continued success, guys.
All right.
Thanks. Still here with Matt Barnes, Mark Spears, and as you just saw in that recap, Kevin Durant played an absolute masterpiece last night. He went the full 48 minutes, scored 49 points to go along with 17 rebounds and 10 assists. Every bit of it was needed with Kyrie Irving out. James Harden hobbled the entire game. Matt, was this KD's best career performance in your eyes?
This is definitely one of them. I mean, he's had some pretty amazing performances in the finals. He's got 2 finals MVPs under his belt. But considering all the outside noise, and normally we don't care, but the outside noise is so loud now with social media and how much people talk and so much reporting that KD went in and answered that bell. You know,
Yep.
49 points, 17 rebounds, 10 assists, willed his team to win. But also, hats off to James Harden. You know, we can tell early that he didn't attack the basket one time, so we knew he wasn't healthy. But I think his presence is a calming presence out there. Got them into offense, made some key passes down the stretch for an assist. But overall, man, KD has answered the bell. He is the best player in the world, and you just love to see it.
I think that finals game when they shut down to Cleveland and got
So
the
it was game 3, right, of the 2017
shot he
finals,
made
and
and
he
all
hit the shot
that.
over LeBron James.
Now,
here you
but
go.
here's a game.
That's the other one in contender, right?
Yeah, but I called Mike Brown because I'm doing a story about him coaching the Nigerian national team. He mentioned the 2017 game when the Warriors went up 3-0 against the Jazz. KD had 38 and 13. I think the difference is he also had Steph Curry next to him.
I was going to say, stakes are different there,
where
too.
you didn't have Kyrie and you, in essence, didn't have James Harden. So for KD to put the team on his back like that, special.
Absolutely.
Special performance, because he definitely, it was him and the Miracles last night, and he made it happen.
Right.
Another team, I got a chance to talk to KD after
You're talking to everybody, Doc.
This is, you guys got your sources. I got my old teammates.
Say,
I
man.
got some
We ain't got
teammates.
sources. You got the people.
But he was just very confident, and just like, all we have to do is go out there and play basketball.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what his mindset is. He's always someone who is so razor locked in that he just had to get the rest of his team to believe. You know what I mean? Some role guys haven't been as key as they normally are. Those guys stepped up last night, but just overall, just the belief that you can do it. Obviously, being at home helps. They're gonna have to go back on the road now. A lot of minutes for him. Played every single minute. Do you worry about that or not? Like Coach Nash said, this is the playoffs and we need it. So going to be interesting to watch the rest of this series, but it's been fun. It's been a beautiful thing to watch.
I did say on this show yesterday, if I had to bank on one player in the entire league, and certainly in that game, to have a huge game, I'm putting my money on Kevin Durant. The choice was Kevin Durant or Giannis, and I said no disrespect to Giannis, who's phenomenal. But Kevin Durant, to me, is the guy I would put all my chips on. And after this game, Giannis
he's done it too.
Yes, well, I like when people go out and prove me right. Thank you, KD. But Giannis Antetokounmpo said after this game, KD is the best player in the NBA now. And this is a conversation, Matt, you and I were having just a couple weeks ago, right? If you had to pick to save your house, if you had to draft NBA players, who would be your first all-around pick? Assume that everyone is healthy, everyone is the current age that they are now. Would you pick Kevin Durant first? It seems like that is more and more the answer.
And you also got to think he heard a lot of chirping because PJ Tucker had a good game, physical, and he had an off night. And it kind of reminded me when they said that Ruben Patterson was the Kobe stopper, and Kobe said, "Oh, really?
Oh, really?"
So this is KD didn't have to say nothing. He just came out and proved it. But to the Giannis point, it's great that you're giving someone props. You're in the second round of the playoffs, but to hear him say that I'm going to do whatever the coach wants me to do. You're a former defensive player of the year. You don't run from that matchup. I don't care who's guarding him. I'm telling my teammate, I'm taking KD. I'm
this is
the best.
the next question, right?
No.
Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah, no, to me, it's, you should always want that challenge, especially for someone like Giannis. He hit in the corner on what's his name, the shooter, Joe Harris, a majority of the night. But if I'm Giannis, you see someone like KD, knowing that's their main weapon, and if you're able to slow him down, you can possibly win. For Giannis not to say, hey, I don't care who's guarding him, coach, I'm guarding him right now, that kind of bothered me.
Well, I'm going to go back. I'm going to make KD mad at me. All right. Let's go back to March 2018. I was in the house. And look, we're looking at it right now. KD had 10 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, 4 turnovers, and was a negative 15 and was tossed after 17 minutes. Why? He was frustrated the way Giannis was guarding him. Giannis is the only player I've seen who matches his size, who matches his length. Maybe he is taller, maybe he is longer. It's like he's looking at his image, right?
Right, yeah.
So why hasn't Giannis been on him? I'm like,
with that said,
y'all was at this game. Y'all was at this game that I was talking about. Y'all studied. Like you don't remember that game? Why hasn't he guarded him? Like only God could stop KD. But if I'm gonna put somebody out there,
try.
A solid
Middleton, respect, PJ Tucker, amazing defender, but why don't you put somebody that is his spitting image against him?
Well, Giannis did say after the game that he wanted to do that.
Too late.
You think so?
Yeah, it's too late.
Really? You think the series is over now?
I just think that you got to have that competitive spirit from the beginning.
Jump.
He should have been guarding them since game 1.
From the jump.
Not game 6.
And even if he has good games, you're their best option. Although, you're still their best option. I understand you want to save his legs and this and that, and you have guys you can rotate on him. But Giannis should be the main guy guarding KD from game 1.
Well, I will say this. All of this sort of, if you're the defensive player of the year. Not every defensive player of the year, especially big men, have gone out on the perimeter and guarded wings. No one was telling Hakeem to go out on the wing, right?
But this is different. You got to take that challenge because he's an in-between guy.
I'm not saying he shouldn't. I'm just saying that particular argument of if you're supposed to be the defensive player of the year, shouldn't you be whatever? I think he should be doing it because he's Giannis Antetokounmpo, not because he has a defensive player of the year tag, right? It's because he's Giannis and his game is flexible enough, and we are in this era that we are in, that he should be the one who is at least trying to check Kevin Durant. That is why I think he should be trying.
That's what the great ones do.
We will see whether he is going to do it in this next game, and if these gentlemen are right, if it's too late. You know who else, whose opinion I would respect on pretty much anything he comes out. Jazz with a right knee sprain is what they're calling it right now, but he is out indefinitely. Now remember, he appeared to tweak his knee during the fourth quarter of Monday's win. He sat out the final few minutes. Ramona, you were the one reporting on this story for us as it broke. What can you tell us about this injury?
Well, this is a cause for concern, Rachel. I mean, I didn't think he was all that injured in the game because he came out, he was sitting on the bench. There was no trainer attending to him. He wasn't on the injury report in the morning.
And he talked about it after the game.
And he said, I don't want to talk about it. Next question. So, with Kawhi, that could mean anything.
He said, I'm fine. Next question.
Yeah, I'm fine. Next question.
He said, I'm fine. Next question.
Yeah.
So that's what we heard after the game.
Yeah, he seemed okay. He answered a bunch of questions, seemed to be in an okay mood. Last night, I kind of got worried that the situation that they got bad news on whatever imaging they had done or tests they had done during the day. The fear, Rachel, is that this involves the ACL, which is a ligament in your knee. They're calling it a sprain for right now, but they need to do some more imaging to determine how severe this is, because when you have an injury in a game, Matt, and you know this, it swells up the next day. And it's hard to determine exactly which ligaments are involved here, how serious this is. So right now they're calling this a right knee sprain, but they need to do some more tests to see how severe this is. I think right now the Clippers are prepared to be without him tonight and most likely for the rest of this series.
And look,
let's see how severe it is.
Sprain, and especially an ACL, you want to err on the side of caution. So he could, and you hate to say it, could be done for the playoffs.
Right. And look, we saw, again, I think with the Kevin Durant experience in the NBA Finals a couple years ago looms over every decision that every NBA team is making now, right? If there is something that looks, this could be bad, involving an area of your body where, oh my gosh, we could have long-term effects that could knock you out, not just for the rest of the playoffs, but maybe for a year or two, that timeline gets longer and longer.
Yes.
That is some of the concern with saying, just go out there and play. It's such an important time of year. Matt, we know now on the other side, by the way, that the Jazz's Mike Conley is also out tonight. His hamstring, of course, has been keeping him out for a while now.
Right.
I don't know if the Jazz saw that. He was questionable originally. I don't know if the Jazz saw the Clippers injury report and were like, maybe we don't need to rush Mike Conley back. That's just me speculating. But Matt, what do you think that the Clippers need to do there, at least tonight, going out without Kawhi Leonard?
They need to rally around their team right now. Paul George is 1A now, and he's been playing well of late. You just hate to see this because Kawhi has these guys playing so well. Although they went in a 2-0 down 0-2, they've come back in convincing fashion the last two games and really have everyone thinking that they're on their way to the Western Conference Finals. So this is a huge blow to the team. But one good thing for Coach Lue is he has a very deep team. Obviously, you can't replace a guy like Kawhi with one or two players, but by committee, hopefully they can get some of his numbers and the defensive presence he normally brings every night.
And PG, he averaged 26 when Kawhi's out, 5 more shots a game.
Mm-hmm.
Terrence Mann, this is your time. Moore Sr., this is your time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking at hotels in Salt Lake City for the West Finals right now. Park City or down. Kawhi is the reason why they're here.
Yes.
He is their Superman, and he's been so much more aggressive this series and in the end of last series. Like, I think Paul has it in him, but we need to see some special performance from him like we saw from Kevin Durant last night for the Clippers to survive, and that still might not be enough.
Right. And I mean, by the way, we need to see like what we saw from Kevin Durant last night. That's a nice sentence
That's
to
a
say.
lot, right?
No pressure. No pressure. No pressure.
That was an extremely historic performance, a tall order, and by the way, from a guy who is considered possibly the best in the game right now. I'm not sure that Paul George, a lot of that should be put on his plate as well. We will see. We have to move on because we have so much that happened this morning. As The Athletic first reported, Chris Paul has entered the NBA's health and safety protocols. The official line is that he is out indefinitely, but here is what we know about a timeline. According to the way NBA rules sit right now, and of course they've evolved, if a player tests positive for COVID, he needs to go into quarantine until either 10 days have passed or he can produce 2 negative tests that were taken in a 24-hour or 48-hour span. And then even after that, he has to undergo cardiac testing, which usually takes 2 days because there is an observation period in between. Now, there is no difference to this part of the policy if a player was vaccinated or not. However, where the word, gee, is Chris Paul vaccinated and how does this affect things has come in, is that in general, people who have been vaccinated and then test positive for COVID have either extremely mild cases or asymptomatic and therefore produce negative tests more quickly. That is just what has happened with research on the vaccine. So that is where Chris Paul's possible vaccinated status comes in. Again, right now, the only official confirmation is he is in the health and safety protocol. So we don't have more official information than that. But Ramona, you have also been doing reporting on this. Where are you with what you know about Chris Paul?
Well, I think it's going to have to come from Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when we get into situations like this, there's HIPAA rules and whether or not somebody is tested positive. But as you said, Rachel, if he has been vaccinated, he can move through these protocols much more quickly. And I think
But not because the protocols are any different.
Correct.
It's just that he should pass those.
He should pass
signposts
them, right?
more
And I think the best example I can give is we saw with the New York Yankees what happened in that situation where they had one person who had been vaccinated and there was a breakthrough infection and he was a coach on the team and he was symptomatic. And there were 7 other players who actually tested positive but were completely asymptomatic and they had also been vaccinated. This is what we have seen with the vaccine.
Right.
And this is the real world. And this is what's interesting in the NBA this year is we're getting sort of a real life science experiment because the vaccine was tested amongst people who weren't getting daily tests like the NBA players are. Even if you've been vaccinated, you still have to be tested all the time. And so players are getting vaccinated and may not even have gone to the doctor or may not even gone for a test to go to find out if they have COVID. But because they're in the NBA, they have to do these daily tests. And so it's going to be an interesting for all of us to watch. But good thing the Suns swept. Good thing they have some time here.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely rooting for a Game 7 in the other series, right, to push it to next Tuesday. I had heard a couple months ago that the Suns were one of the teams that were least excited to get the vaccine. I don't know how that changed and everything, but the NBA is also pushing the players for their surrounding people. And Chris has a big following, a very strong family. Like, they want everybody in your circle to be vaccinated too. I don't know if they could require that, but they're certainly pushing this. But, man, my prayers to him because we really still have to caution on the reality of this is bigger than basketball. You know, Damon Lee at Golden State, he got the Johnson & Johnson, and he ended up getting it, and he was out a month, even though he had gotten the vaccine. So I hope this isn't the case. I hope this is a short thing, and my prayers for him that this is not a big deal, that we see him play soon.
Yeah, I mean, I got a chance to talk to Chris this morning. He is vaccinated. Obviously, frustration on this side. He's like, Maddie, all I do is go to games, practice, and come home. You know what I mean? So I just don't really know what's going on. So he said he has to, like, as you said, continue to get tested till he's cleared. But just, it feels terrible for Chris. I mean, his playoff track record, as talented he is, has been so injury-riddled and just bad luck. And then you see in the first game of the playoffs this year, he gets a stinger in his shoulder and he can't shoot. He fights through that, has been playing amazing, leading a team that didn't make the playoffs last year to the Western Conference Finals, and now he's in the safety protocol. So again, hopefully this Jazz Clippers series goes 7 games. Chris gets through the protocol fast because he is vaccinated, and we can see him back on the court for Game 1 of the Western Finals.
When you talked to him this morning, is there anything else he shared? Do you feel comfortable talking about?
No, it was just his energy was down. He was sad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's so this is the hottest team in the game. He's playing arguably the best playoff basketball of his career. He's leading this young Phoenix Suns team, and just his voice and his energy was just very sad. So I just really felt for him this morning.
Well, we certainly feel for him, his family, everyone who is dealing with this. And by the way, you mentioned the New York Yankees situation.
Yeah.
We don't know if he's the only person on the Phoenix Suns
That's right.
who's going to end up with a positive test. This doesn't necessarily just mean him. Now, the fact that they have not all been together, I assume, since they ended Game 4, right? Everyone
Chris
kind of
lives here in Los Angeles.
Chris lives here in Los Angeles. He does a pretty heroic job as a dad, commuting back and forth.
Yeah.
Well, they went back to practice yesterday, right?
Right? Well,
Yeah.
and I don't, was he in that practice? I don't know if he was in
Even
that
though it was
practice
light
or not.
workout, Monty told me it was going to be a light workout. So
Right.
who knows
So-
if they all got together.
Yes, and Monty Williams has said that he doesn't even want to address Game 1 status for Chris Paul until we get closer and get more clarity,
Right.
which makes sense because we don't know when Chris will be able to produce those 2 negative tests, which is what he needs for the first step. Again, there is then cardiac testing afterward. I was on the phone with the league office 3 minutes before this show and trying to get a timeline on how long that takes. It usually takes about 2 days because they have to have that observation in between. Now, do those 2 days mean that the second test happens on the morning of a game and he could play in the game? It depends on which day. It depends on when he clears that second negative test and when the first cardiac test can happen. There's just a lot we don't know yet. What we do know is what you just said, Matt, is that Chris Paul, who's had pretty bad injury luck at times when it comes to the playoffs, especially in the last 5 years, is having really bad luck again. And that stinks. It stinks for the game and it stinks for Chris.
Praying for our brother, man.
Let's move on to another huge breaking news story. In fact, several, because there is personnel news around the league and it is not stopping. We've got 2 coaching changes. Stan Van Gundy with the Pelicans, Scott Brooks with the Wizards. Neither one is with either of those teams anymore, friends, because they have all parted ways. We also learned that Donnie Nelson is out as the Mavericks GM. So let's start with Stan Van Gundy. The Pelicans announcing Stan out after 1 season as head coach. Van Gundy was 31 and 41. Woj and Andrew Lopez reporting that potential candidates include assistants Jacques Vaughn, Ime Udoka, Charles Lee, and Jason Kidd. Mark, I'm putting Teresa Witherspoon's name in there. I don't care whether it's in the reporting or not. I think she should be considered. Tell me why you don't think it worked out between Stan and the Pelicans.
Stan was in a bad position from the beginning because there was no real training camp because of COVID. There was not much time with the players in the offseason like you would get time in Vegas. But everybody had that. But he has such a young team. Like his top 3 scorers are 23 and younger. They didn't have any shooting. I did think he helped progress Zion by moving him to point guard. Yeah. But they lost too many close games. They had too many turnovers. And ultimately, I think there was a disconnect in a lot of ways with him and some of the young guys. And that's got to be tough for Griff because this was his first real big hire, right? To hire Stan and bring him in, the general manager of the Pelicans or the president of the Pelicans. So where do they go next? Yeah, I do agree with you. I mean, Zion's close with Witherspoon. Let her come in and show if she's worthy of the job. I think at minimum, she's got to be on that staff next year. I expect her to be on the front of the bench if she is. But I'm starting to get rumblings about Charles Lee. I think he really impressed them last year when he interviewed. And I think right now, if I had to put my money on it, it'd be the Bucks assistant.
I think Mark hit it on the head. I think it's a disconnect between Stan's old school principles and this young team. I got a chance to play for Stan in 2009 and 10, and he's just great X and O's, but an old school type of basketball coach. And that's not a knock on him. Just the game has progressed so much that I said from the very beginning, not that he's a bad coach, but he's a bad fit for this team for the reason that this team is too young for his coaching mentality and style. So unfortunate situation for him, for Griff, for this team. But you're thinking about it, Zion will be be on his third coach at the start of his third year. So that's never a good sign. You want consistency and stability for this young team, especially because, like Mark just said, their top 3 scorers are under 23 years old. So they need someone. This next hire needs to be a very important hire because hopefully it'll be there for, a 5, 7, 8 year run.
So how many coaches Ingram had?
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that actually, that is a consideration here.
Yep.
And you have to think about the quick trigger of just one season.
Yeah.
And look, the conversations have been going on between management and Stan Van Gundy for a while. This didn't just happen this morning.
And Rachel, I think you made a really good point about Witherspoon. This is the closest I have felt that there would be a female head coach in the NBA. This is the closest I think it's come. With Teresa Witherspoon here in New Orleans, and then Becky Hammond is going to be interviewing for several different jobs.
We should clarify, Teresa already has a position in the organization. She is close and well liked by those players already.
And well respected too.
And she's Teresa Witherspoon.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm just encouraged, right? Because this is the closest it's come.
Wow.
And I don't know if she's going to get this job, but I think, as you said, Mark, she should be on the staff. I think Becky's interviewing for a few jobs. She's in serious consideration for a couple of the jobs that are out there right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see her get either the job or be in the finalist rounds for several different openings right now.
We have seen so many coaches come through the NBA, either as head coaches or interim head coaches. Some of the people who haven't gotten a shot before, and we're talking about assistants who are on the bench, former players who have worked their way. You don't just get a prize for being a former player. These guys have worked their way up through other staffs, and I'd like to see them get a shot.
I think it's important to bring in new blood. I think we kind of keep recycling the older coaches, and this is not a knock on the older coaches. This game is just not where it was when they were in their prime coaching. Players get out of their prime, coaches get out of their prime sometimes. So this new fresh blood, player blood, whether it's male or female, I definitely think we're on the brink. Whether one of these 2 women get a job this year, I'm saying within the next 2 years, one of them will definitely be a head coach, and we're going to set, a new president in the NBA. But I think it's very important to stop recycling the same old guys. There's a reason why they keep getting moved on, just like there's a reason why older players keep having to move on and finally retire.
Can they take a chance, though?
Who?
Can they try a new guy there?
In New Orleans?
Yeah.
It's tough. That's a tough situation because there hasn't been any consistency with someone there. So you're taking a chance, whether it be a first-time head coach or a female. It's going to be a big chance, but it's something they probably have to do.
And look, it's not just New Orleans. And just to